Ros Pomeroy has worked in the UK, mainland Europe, and Asia Pacific in a variety of areas, including sales, business strategy, and most recently, human resources and change management. She specialises in executive coaching and change leadership in both the public and private sectors. Ros, what were the problems with Paul Johnston's management style?
Okay, well, if I use the categories that were suggested in the case study task, and let's start with his personality, he was someone who was very results focused, but having said that, was not someone who found it easy to build relationships with people. He seemed to be distant from the people that he worked with, and that alienated and put some people off. His communication style, that seemed to be one way. He could give people instructions, he would talk at people, but was not a good listener. And he was criticised for not taking into account the different cultures and the different personalities of his team and adapting his style accordingly. So he wasn't flexible in that. Thirdly, goal setting. He was someone who apparently was not very clear in what he was expecting from people. And so his team were left in some confusion about what it was they were meant to be doing. As an example, they did a survey in France which apparently had to be completed in 2 weeks, and that had not been made clear. Moving on to decision making, he seems to be someone who was very decisive, which is a quality in itself. However, what he didn't do was to involve his team in any of those decisions. He didn't take other people's opinions, and that became demotivating and something which alienated again those people from him and created that distance. And finally, in monitoring performance and giving feedback, he was very quick to criticise his team when he didn't think they had done something that was right, but he didn't explain in any way, in any constructive way, by giving them feedback about what it was that they could do to improve their performance next time round.
What do you think of each of the project manager candidates?
Okay, well, starting with Ruth, I think her strengths are that she's very focused on meeting deadlines. She believes in setting clear goals, and also she conducts regular appraisals of her team members. I think as far as weaknesses go, then although she has acknowledged that there are differences in cultures and in managing an international team, and realises that that is a factor in such a team, she doesn't appear to want to adapt her style in any way to accommodate that. Now, Katsuo, his strengths are that he's very organised, he's very results focused, and he also does appreciate that he needs to learn about other cultures, although I think he has some limited understanding of what that really means in practice. I think his other weakness is that he believes that the individual is much, much less important than the needs of the company overall, and I think that might turn some people off and make him feel like quite a distant sort of manager in the same way that Paul Johnston perhaps was. Moving on to Eduardo, I think his strengths are his involving style. He's a good listener, and he is sensitive to the needs of international staff. I think his weaknesses may lie in the fact that he is not seemingly someone who will actually get things done. He may be too hesitant. And also, I have a feeling, wants to be liked too much, and therefore may not be prepared to take tough decisions. And finally, Martina, I think her strengths are she's another results-focused individual. And she's somebody that sets goals, and she says that she allows her team to then execute those goals in the way that they choose. However, she also says that she expects people to follow her instructions to the letter, and I think that might be a bit contradictory. Also, her weaknesses, I think, are her belief that people are entirely motivated by money. And I think she would find, particularly with people from different cultures, that that wouldn't always be the case. Finally, on her weaknesses side, she has very low regard for staff appraisal or for giving people feedback, and I think that would be a problem.
Who would you choose and why?
Well, I think as I've described, each of the candidates has their strengths, but also their weaknesses. I think managing an international project team of this sort is a very challenging task. And I like Katsuo in the sense that he acknowledges that and he says that he's willing to learn. However, I don't think he's the best candidate. I think Eduardo and Ruth would be the front runners for me. I think Eduardo has the strengths about involving team members. I think he would build a good rapport and a good relationship with them. But in the end, I have a doubt over his ability to actually get anything done. So on balance, having considered the pros and cons of all the candidates, I would go for Ruth. And the reason I would go for Ruth is that I think she, although maybe will hit a few problems with her inflexibility over her style and not adapting to individual team members, that she is, in other respects, able to get the job done and focus on deadlines, which is something that is clearly needed at this stage in the project.